Hello and welcome to today's live. So what's the subject for today's live? Well, we're going to be talking about the TN and essentially how you get it. Okay, I'll do a little intro on what a TN is, but I have lots of people who call in and want to know what they have to do to get it and where they apply and things like that. So I'll let you know. And then, of course, what I'll do is I will go back over all of your questions, see if you have any, and I'll answer them, and then we will go from there. And then after, I will have to say sayonara, because then I'll have to go and do my consults. Okay? So let's get to it. So first of all, what is a TN visa? Okay, so if anybody knows about visas, the H-1B is comparable. It's basically, and there's variations, but it's basically if you have a college degree and you qualify, you can get a TN visa. And in order to get the TN, the only way you're going to do it is if you're a citizen of Canada or a citizen of Mexico. Okay, if you are not a citizen of one of those two countries, then TN doesn't apply to you. Okay. And there's all kinds of reasons why you might want a TN versus an H-1B and so forth. But that is the subject of another video. So let's get to it. So one reason the TN is really nice, especially if you're a Canadian citizen, is minus the fact that you have to prepare it properly, getting it in Canada is really quick. Okay. You don't need to have prior USCIS approval. You don't need to set an appointment at the consulate. You don't need to wait forever to get the appointment. And again, this is just in Canada. It's not Mexico. But in Canada, you can literally put your whole package together. You can go to the point of entry, the port of entry, and the CBP official will adjudicate it on the spot. Okay, which means, for example, say you live in Vancouver, or you're in the jurisdiction of Vancouver, and you want to get a TN visa. So you have it properly prepared. You literally drive to the border. You go to the CBP official, you say you want a TN visa, they review it, and if everything's hunky-dory, they will approve it on the spot. And boom, you're in. Okay? So that's how that works. I forgot the spot. And boom, you're in. Okay? So that's how that works. I forgot to... There? Okay, sorry. I had to do that. Otherwise, my my phone and my messages and my work will go beep, 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 beep. So here we are. So that's how you get the TN in Canada. Now, I don't want to make it seem like you can just walk to a CBP official in Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal, whatever, and I'm talking about when you come to the border, and say, I want a TN visa, can you let me in? No, you have to have it properly prepared. Obviously you have to have the cover letter from the future employer. You have to show that it comes within one of the job provisions and one of the elements that allow you to work in a TN visa. You need to show that you're admissible. You need to have basically, if I were preparing it, the attorney cover letter, which describes all this, and you need to have it all tabbed and pretty looking so that when you do end up going to the border, they look at it, they see clearly that it is, number one, a position that qualifies for TN, number two, that you qualify based on your background for the TN, and that you have no dual intent, that you have non-immigrant intent. If all that is available, then what will happen is you will get the TN and be able to come in quickly. Okay. Now, given that I said that, let's talk about Mexico. Now, as unfair as it seems, which it is unfair, I think, if you are a citizen of Mexico, you cannot just have a TN prepared, go to the border, and expect them to adjudicate it on the spot. Okay? Somebody sending me not hearts, but it looks like little baseball bats. I don't know what they are. With getting the TN from outside the country, from Mexico, you definitely need to have an appointment at the consulate, and you need to have them adjudicate it. So number one, you have to wait for the appointment, and number two, you have to go there and have them specifically adjudicate it for approval at the consulate. So it's considerably more difficult to get the TN and lengthy if you're from Mexico than from Canada. Okay, that is a fact. So then the only other way is if you're inside the U.S. and you're already on TN, you can file an extension. Now, assuming you continue to have your non-immigrant intent, they can issue TNs every 3 years and renew it until you die, okay, as long as you have non-immigrant intent. Generally, I don't see people on TNs that long. They usually do things to switch and ultimately get the green card, okay? And that's a whole nother story. But if you're inside the U.S., you can file the change of status, or sorry, the extension of status to get the TN and wait for them to adjudicate it. You cannot leave the country while the extension is pending, and you can do it that way. But if you're in the U.S. and you're a Canadian citizen, you can just hop up to the border, show them your, packet, and they can extend it, then come right back down. Okay, so again, the same type of thing. So that's that. Okay, that in a nutshell is procedurally how you can get the TN if you're from Canada or Mexico. And keep in mind, I have a lot of clients that, for example, would take years and years to go through other countries, so they can actually become Canadian citizens in some respects relatively quickly, and then they would be able to come in on a TN, even if they might be, for example, a Filipino citizen. Okay? All that makes sense? All right. Let us go back to the beginning where it all started and see if we have any questions. All right, so I'm scrolling down now. And be patient with me. I have to see if we have any questions here. Okay, this is from Aflatoon. Hi, sir. What is the green card fee for the I-1 730 form when you're in the U.S.? Okay, first of all, there's hundreds of different fees, and I do not have them all memorized in my head. So you can actually go on the USCIS website. They have a specific section that lists what the fees are, and you can see it from there. Obviously, what's more important is not necessarily what the fee is, but properly preparing the work. Okay, so the I-730 is for a derivative asylee. So you have to show that the main asylum applicant has already done what needs to be done, and that you qualify as a derivative/dependent. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. Okay, Master Dewan Cool got the number 2 gifter badge, which actually got the number 1 gifter badge. All right, let's see. Just a minute. So I think, wait, I was just scrolling, and as it happens every single time, it scrolled up a whole bunch. Just a minute. If anybody has their questions, now's the time to ask, because I'll have to leave shortly to do my consults. But, if you don't get it answered this time, there's always next time. Okay. This is from Food and Fun Vibes. Are you a chef? Is international travel risky for H-1B visa holders who had an unexpired visa stamp on their passport? Okay, well, had you asked me that pre-Trump, I would have said no. But obviously, there's issues now. So, first of all, if you're in the U.S., just so you know, it is the I-94 that controls, not the visa. Okay, just so you know. If you're outside the U.S., then it is the visa that controls, not the I-94. Which means that if you have an H-1B, you've been complying with the visa, you haven't been doing what you're not supposed to, you haven't been violating your status at all, and honestly, you should see an immigration attorney to make sure you haven't, because you would not believe how many H-1B holders I get that go, by the way, is it okay that I start my own business and sell my own stuff and, work for the H-1B company? And to me, I'm not sure why this doesn't seem obvious, because you had to go through the whole procedure to get the H-1B in the first place, right? It wasn't easy. You had to go through everything. What makes you think you can just come in and open your own business and start selling things? Okay, you need a visa for that. There are visas for that, but you need to have one. So I would need to make sure you haven't violated your status at all. And if you have an unexpired visa stamp, it means your visa is still valid, which means you should be able to travel without a problem. Okay? But make sure that you have not violated your status before you walk out the country. Okay? Oh, I got a rose from Nunam. Thank you. Okay. Second. All right, just a minute. Alrighty. And Aflatun says thank you. You're welcome. Let's see. Okay, Aflatun, what is the N400 application time process in LA? That's for naturalization, and you're looking at a year to a year and a half. Sometimes longer, sometimes less. It depends. Again, the most important thing is not how long it takes, although that might seem the most important to you. The most important is whether you qualify and that you put out a good application. Do not think that just because you filed for the N400, it's guaranteed to be approved. That would be the opposite of the reality of the situation, okay? All right, what kind of issues does DHS or Customs pose while entering the U.S. at the port of entry you want to know? Well, first things first, they want to make sure you're admissible. And conversely, they want to make sure you're not inadmissible, okay? And there's all kinds of things that make people inadmissible in the U.S., okay? So you do want to make certain that when you're coming to the border, that you have everything set, especially in today's world. Okay, especially in today's world, you have to make sure that you're not inadmissible, that you haven't violated your status, that you show the proper intent for the visa, and so forth. Okay, those are the kind of issues, and it all depends on what kind of visa you have. Okay, all right. This is from Armin Metal. Your I-130 interview was on April 17th. You got approved on April 23rd. 45 is still pending. Is it normal? Okay, so normally in the U.S., if you qualify, you file the I-130 and the I-45 simultaneously. And the interviews are simultaneous, okay? Which makes me wonder why you know for sure that your I-130 only was approved. Did you have just the I-130 interview, or did you file the I-130 separate from the I-485? So I need to know, because the I-130, some people think they get the I-130 approved and they're home free. And that is couldn't be farther from the truth. Okay? The I-130, so Arm and Metal, you have two people in the picture there. So I don't know if it's husband and wife, and that's who, the petition is. But assuming it is, for example, the I-130 shows that your husband and wife, that one's a foreign national, one's the U.S. citizen, or lawful permanent resident, and that you've properly proven that. It does not prove admissibility. It doesn't prove eligibility to adjust. None of that. Okay? It's only the first step. So I would need to know if, in fact, you qualify to adjust status. And then secondly, I would need to know if you filed the adjustment properly in the first place. Okay? All right. Magic Mike. And you obtain permanent residency with a felony conviction. Can. Okay. Well, you corrected, because the first thing I was going to say is that's not a question, but then you corrected yourself. So can permanent residency be obtained with a felony conviction? It depends. Okay. First of all, I'd need to see if a waiver is available. The fact that you say felony conviction under criminal law is not the same as, for example, aggravated felony under immigration law. So I need to see what your conviction is. And then I need to see if you have, if waivers are available, immigration waivers. I need to see if you have a qualifying relative. Okay, if so, then it's a matter of preparing the waiver along with the various petitions. Now, let's say no waiver is available. Well, then I need to see if criminal relief is available. Maybe we can vacate or reduce the felony conviction so that you're not considered, for example, either an aggravated felon or that you have a crime that makes you inadmissible. Okay? So, the answer is maybe. And I need to see how I can help you. So give my office a call. Okay. Well, Aaron Meadow, you updated the information here. You say you filed together, which is good. And the accountant says the I-130 approved, which is good. And it says 485 interview scheduled. All right. So, that's all good. You're talking about April. The I-130 was approved, and you want to know if it's normal that the 485 is pending. And it's only been 2 months. In immigration law, 2 months is like the blink of an eye. It's no time. Okay. What I would do is I would wait 6 months. If you wait 6 months and nothing happens, then it's time to do a formal inquiry, and possibly, if long enough goes, you can file what's called a writ of mandamus, which is a suit against USCIS, which forces them to make a decision. Okay. The only odd thing with what you've told me so far is that it seems like even though you filed it together, they separately did the I-130 interview with then the 485. The reason for that, to me, is there's something that flags them to wonder about the validity of the relationship in the first place. Okay. I don't know what, did you know each other only 3 days before getting married? Is your spouse 50 years older than you? Things like that. So it depends. I wouldn't say it's time to worry yet, because nothing's been denied. And clearly by what you said, the 45 is still on the table. You might want to have an attorney review it, though. Make sure you still did it right. Okay? Understood, appreciated. You're welcome, Magic Mike. Okay, and you're welcome, Arm and Metal. Okay, well, it's 9 o'clock. Holy cow. Time passes fast when you're having fun. Well, it's time to... Okay, so I got to do 2 things. First, I have to go down and go on the bike. I need to have my exercise. I had my left hip replaced, and I have to keep it moving, all right? So first I'm going to do a little bike, have a little coffee, and then I'm going to do my consults. I have quite a few today. Okay? So it's been a pleasure. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day until the next time. All right, bye.